Hey y'all, and welcome back, and today I'm going to be sharing some palettes on my channel that I feel like will surprise you that I'm sharing them on my channel, but they are the new Urban Decay Smiley palettes. We have Chill Happy and Mucho Happy. Sorry, I don't know why I butchered that. Mucho Happy, and for me, when I open these palettes, they don't make me chill happy or mucho happy at all. They make me kind of sad because they both look like this. I mean, they're cute. They have aspects in the palette that I think are promising, but for me, half of these palettes of each one is just a big dud. But I was sent this by the brand. I did get it. Looking at them together, I'm like, that's a little bit promising. If we could combine them, it's a little bit more interesting than having them by themselves. And I do know the yellow and blue in this palette are calling my name and making me want to try it. So I figured we could sit down in this video, put them both together, and just be able to share with you guys the quality. Even though color story wise I would never buy these myself, I do have them now, and maybe you're curious if the quality is there. Maybe you really like the color story and you just want to hear about the quality. So I'm going to be using both of these on my eyes and share with you guys what I think about the quality of the mattes and the shimmers. And we're also going to be talking about dogs, because I have been on the hunt for a dog for our family for over a year at this point, and it's been going up and down. So many breeds I've looked into, so many breeds are just doesn't feel like they're a right fit for my family, and finally I think we found a breed that will be good for us. So I figured we could just chit chat about that as I'm putting on my makeup and doing my eyes, chit chat about all the ups and downs of finding the perfect family dog for our family. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's just go ahead and jump right into it and put these on my eyes and talk about dogs. As I already said, we have the Mucho Happy and the Chill Happy palettes here. Covers are super cute, like super cute, but the insides don't excite me at all. But I do think that I can definitely get a pretty fun look out of this. I might use some of this dark purple though, because you guys know I like depth, so I think I'm going to reach for this dark purple in the outer corner. So I'm going to go into more of a packer type brush, maybe not the most ideal brush for a shimmer, but I wanted to use it, as I said, on the outer corner. So we're going to go into Brainwave, and let's talk about some dogs, because it has been a journey. I feel so overwhelmed sometimes when I think about all the different things that I have been looking into recently, because it's just been a lot. But we're just going to kind of go back and start from the beginning. We wanted to get a family dog. We're on a good bit of acreage here out in our new house, and we have a lot of livestock coming in. We have young kids, as you guys know, and we wanted a dog not only for protection for us and our children, but also our animals, just to make sure, you know, having a dog ringing around would deter birds and whatnot from coming out and grabbing them, or at night them wandering around if we have a dog on the premises, stuff like that. There was just a lot of pros to getting a dog, and it's been on our to-do list, or it's just been something we wanted to add to the family for a while now. So we've been in the research phase of trying to find what would be the perfect dog for our family for probably close to a year now. It's been a lot, and research, and when I say research phase, it's me like looking into different breeds, and once I find a breed that I think will be good for our family, I join a bunch of like Facebook groups to learn about the breed, ask a bunch of questions from either rescues or breeders or people who have them, just to get a feel for the dog. So it's quite time consuming when we actually find a breed that we think will be good. And it's been a long process. And originally when we first were talking about dogs, we actually thought of a Turkish Baz, because someone I follow on Instagram has them, and she was saying not only are they amazing protectors because they're huge dogs, they're huge, but they're also extremely nice and friendly to children. I have a lot of young children, so any dog that we wanted, I wanted to make sure would be good with young children, you know, hanging on them, being rough and all that stuff. So when I saw that dog, I showed my husband, and I was like, look at this dog, like this might be a good dog for us. Since the options for mattes are so limiting, I am going to take some of Brainwave, and I'm going to bring it up into the crease a bit, and then I'm just going to be taking Smiley really heavy in my crease. And we're just going to do that because that's about all we got. That's our only options here. We just got nothing to work with. I mean, I guess I could take some Fire. Let's do that just to change it up. I'm going to take Fire into my crease instead of just the purple. So we use another shade. I mean, that purple looks pretty. It's definitely kind of like a soft shimmer. It's got a lot of sparkle to it, even though it is more of a softer shimmer. But let's go into Fire. So the first dog that I was looking into, like I said, was a Turkish Baz, and they're quite pricey. They're quite huge, large, and we didn't know of anyone local who had one. And it might just be a me thing, but when we were talking and looking into dogs, I really like being able to see them in person, get a feel for them, see them moving and interacting with people and whatnot. So I was looking into it more, and some people we knew locally had an Anatolian Shepherd, and so I was like, you know what? Anatolian is like a smaller form. They're kind of very similar, and as far as like in the whole livestock guardian breed, Anatolian is similar to a Baz, but it's a little bit smaller and slimmer, but still a very big dog. So we were like, maybe we'll get an Anatolian. And then when I was looking into dogs as far as like protecting sheep, or not sheep, protecting chickens and whatnot, I also came across a Australian Shepherd. So for probably the past 6 months or more, I've been looking into strictly learning about Australian Shepherds and Anatolian Shepherds, and I've even mentioned it on my here on my channel before about Australian Shepherds because they're so cute, they're so beautiful, gorgeous dogs. And you guys had recommended like, hey, check out some shelters if you're going to go with an Australian Shepherd. I'm going into Smiley, and so I have been looking into just about the breed. I've been looking into shelters, and with both dogs, Anatolian and Australian Shepherd, I was just running into a lot of roadblocks that made me hesitate on getting on them being a good fit for our family at the present moment. Anatolians, the biggest hurdle for me was that they're barkers. That's part of how they protect their charges, the animals they're with, their people. They bark, and so they keep away predators by making sure anyone within earshots know that this is their property. So part of me was like, oh, I don't know if I want a dog barking all night. But on top of that, we actually have pretty close neighbors on one side who have hound dogs who bark already all day long anytime we go outside. Like, they're very barky. So I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing to bring a barky type of dog who's very territorial to our property when we have so many dogs next to us that also like to bark a lot. So that was a big hiccup. And then also too, apparently Anatolians need very secure fencing because not only are they big dogs, they can jump, they will jump, they like to roam. If they see something that they consider a danger to their premises, their charges, their animals, their humans, they will run and attack and chase that thing off. So if there is just a little fence in the way, even little as in like 5-foot fence, they'll just sail over it and be gone. And we don't even have a perimeter fence, let alone big tall fences. Like, I was talking to some people, they're like, oh, you need 6 or 8 foot if you can. And I'm like, we got like a 5 foot that we're planning to put up for our animals. So those are some big hurdles that we had with the Anatolian. So then I was looking, as I said, also into Australian Shepherds. With the Australian Shepherds, they were better family dogs, but also so high energy. Like, even on my YouTube channel when I mentioned them, I lost count of how many people left a comment of like, that's great, but be careful, they are high energy dogs. And I'm just like, why does everyone keep saying this like it's a bad thing? It's making me a little scared here. So I was looking into it more. Like I said, I joined a bunch of groups and tried to, look into like YouTube videos I was watching on the different breeds, Facebook groups and whatnot to try to get a handle of it and, get a feel for the breed and whatnot. And they were a little bit more high energy, but also just high maintenance. Not only do they have a lot of energy, but they take a lot of time to make a great dog, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think, if you can put the time into it. Oh yeah, I didn't mention it, but Anatolians, another downside for me was that their baby phase is like the first 2, if not 2.5 years of their life. And that's a long time to like deal with like an adolescent mischievous dog. So that was another deterrent. I don't think the Australian Shepherd had as long of a adolescent phase, but in general they could be a little bit more, like goofy. I feel like some people who owned it just said like he's just they're super playful, they have a lot of energy, they're just kind of like the class clown, they love to run around. You can train them and get them to be really great herding dogs, whatnot. It just takes a lot of time, commitment, and expertise, which I'm not an expert, so that would mean a lot of money finding an expert to help me train that type of thing. So that was also getting a little bit dicey. And then we were like, well, maybe what if we looked into an Anatolian or even a Australian Shepherd that is older? We could rehome or adopt them, and that way we have a more mellow first dog for our children. They won't be in that mischievous phase. They'll kind of have the ropes and whatnot as far as like learning, just basic commands and whatnot. And hopefully they'll be a little bit more not so high energy, and you know, not too rambunctious around our kids and stuff. So I started looking into that. But as far as, you know, Anatolians and even Australian Shepherds, if you're going to get a rehomed one, nobody really recommends them for, at least with the Australian Shepherds. Anytime I saw rehoming, like I joined a bunch of rehoming, adopting groups on Facebook and whatnot, I was looking into a couple organizations. Anytime they had one, 9 times out of 10 they said recommend no children or older children. Like nobody recommended children, like little children, for more mature dogs, which makes sense because they're a little bit older. They probably don't want to be put up with a lot. And so I talked to some people who are experts in the different breeds I was looking at, and all of them were like, if you have young children and you know, you're wanting them to adapt well with your household, it's better bet to safer bet to go with a puppy, because then they are raised in your household. I don't remember what brush I had for the yellow, so I'm just gonna grab another one because I can't remember, and my desk is a mess. But anyway, so they were like, you really should just go with a puppy because it gives it the opportunity to grow up and be used to your family dynamics, and there is no kind of question mark or uncertainties of what the dog might have gone through that maybe one of your kids accidentally triggers. And my kid's safety is paramount over getting a dog. So we tried to look in that route, didn't really find it. And a lot of people said, like, especially for Anatolians, if you have a really great Anatolian that's you know, would be great with kids, if, you know, once they adjusted, they don't really ever get rehomed because they're so good. They're just worth so much money. That person who has taken that time to train him isn't going to put him up for adoption just because they are such amazing. Like, once an Anatolian is full grown and at its prime and whatnot and trained, they are priceless. So they don't go for rehoming. Okay, so my kids came in and interrupted me during nap time, and I'm back. I forget where I was in my talking and rambling, really is what I do, I feel like, most of the time. But I think the crease and all the matte work is pretty much done, even though I've only used 1 matte and 2 shimmers. Mixing the purple with the yellow, I think, did a great job making it more of a brown. It's not really standing out. And blending that yellow on top of this red kind of made it fade away, so that's why I'm putting it back in. But I feel like that can often happen when it comes to trying to blend shimmers. It gets a little bit faded out, but doing this just pops it back in, so that's okay. I don't mind it. But there we are. I think it looks nice. Let's move on to the shimmer, which shimmer I definitely want to use the shade Partey. It's really pretty. It's got like a gold green shift to the bronze. I think that's really pretty. And then should I use anything else? Maybe that pink. We could put upper. Since we've used these two already, maybe we could put upper on there, or maybe we could even stick fire on the outer half to kind of give a little pop. That could be fun. But let's start with Partey. Oh, I forgot we have a blue. We got to use that blue. It's the brightest shade in there. Maybe everyone's using it, but oh, it's more of a green. Oh, that's pretty. So maybe I'll do these two. This will be pretty all over. Honestly, this one's not as impressive as it looked. Let me see what it looks like in a swatch. That doesn't look as pretty on... Neither of those are very impressive, but we'll see what we can build up. We're gonna use those two. I feel like a lot of people have used them, but I mean, that blue is the most exciting one in there, so obviously that's why everyone uses it. Let me go ahead and put this on and try to remember where I was when I got interrupted, because I literally can't remember where I stopped talking. I'm gonna go in with the blue Cyber Smile. Let's see what we can do on the inner corner, and we'll build it up. I think I still want to do Partey over the majority of it, but we'll do this for a pop for sure. So anyway, I've been going right around. I can't remember where I left off, but let's just sum it up to say, because I was probably getting very long-winded anyway, sum it up to say, I had been looking for months, researching, looking into for months, and wasn't really feeling like either one, the Australian or the Anatolian, was going to be a good fit for our family at the present moment. I feel like maybe down the road an Anatolian might be a good fit for us, maybe even an Australian down the road, but at this present moment I was like, you know what? I just don't think they're gonna do well with us, you know, with our busy life right now, with the young kids, with not having proper, you know, perimeter fencing and stuff like that. I just didn't know. And also, like, even part of me wanted an Australian Shepherd, but they required a lot of training. That sounded, and from our recommendation with who we were talking, would need to like have a professional, so like we need to go somewhere to get training and stuff like that. So it just felt like it would be a bit much, or just, you know, too expensive for what we are looking into at this present moment. So I finally was like, you know what, maybe these just aren't the breeds for us. Even though these seem to be the best breeds for our situation and what we want with our little homestead, I don't think they're good for us now. And so, you know, my husband and I were also talking of just like, well, maybe we just need to wait, you know, maybe we don't get a dog for a couple more years. But the more we talked about it, the more I wanted a dog now. And not even just for the animals, because right now I don't think we need a protector for our animals, unless it's like hawks and stuff like that for the chickens when we free roam them. But as far as like that, we're not in a like super out in the country where we're having larger animals that would be a threat to our bigger animals or even our chickens, except for maybe stray dogs in the neighborhood. I think that's our biggest threat. But we don't really have a lot of the wild animals as a threat because of where we live. So we were talking about it, and I feel like really for us, what we want now is a protector for the children. Like, we don't have it a perimeter setup. We, you know, live a little bit, you know, out, not out in the country at all, but we live a little bit off the main road and stuff like that. So as far as like people coming, you know, it's a quiet little road. I feel safe with, you know, who we have as our, you know, neighbors and whatnot, but you never know who can drive down the road, and, you know, it's me and the kids most every day. So we were wanting a dog now for a protector for the family. That's what I felt like was our most emergent need, as far as like, we need a dog who can protect the family and the children now, and then maybe down the road we can look at another dog for the animals, or, you know, for the different things, a herder for sheep if we got that type of thing. But right now we wanted a dog for the kids and for us, and just to feel that like security of having someone by our side if something went south here at the house, or even just like when they're exploring in the back, if they came across a snake or something, just to have somebody, some dog for our children. And I felt like that was, I've wanted that, and I didn't want to wait for that, because, you know, we're gonna get a puppy just because of where, you know, who our family dynamics are. I feel like everyone has said you need a puppy, that way they are used to your family and you don't, you know, stress out an older dog, or the older dog's not a good fit for your family and stuff like that. So it's gonna take a little while for the puppy to become an adult. So I started looking into different breeds. So I was like, well, maybe I just need to start over and look into just family protectors. So I was like, maybe we should just get like a golden retriever or a lab or something like those good man's best friend type of breeds. And someone in our local area actually put up that their pups had, or their dogs had puppies, and they were Dobermans. And I was like, what's a Doberman? Like, I knew vaguely of Doberman, of like those big scary dogs. So I was like, well, let me look into it. So I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, they're definitely scary looking. Like, I don't know if they'd be a good fit for a family. So looked into it more, reached out to the ladies, started doing what I do whenever I see a breed that might be promising for us. I join all the Facebook groups, I watch a bunch of YouTube videos, I read a bunch of stuff online, and I was talking to the lady who had originally posted it. And the more I talked to her about it and looked into it, I was like, you know what? Maybe this will be the dog. So I suggested it to my husband. He was like, no. He's like, we're not doing that dog. That dog's, you know, not with our young children. And I was like, well, let's look into it. And so I was showing him what I learned, and, you know, what I'd been looking into, what the, you know, people were saying. I was showing him dogs that people had, and, you know, whatnot. And the more we were looking into it and researching, he was like, you know what? Maybe so. And so we actually talked to the people who originally had kind of piqued my interest on the breed of Dobermans, and asked to, like, hey, can we come out and see the dog and just kind of see what they're like, how they are with people. I gave them every scenario that you could imagine for our family, like what our kids are like, what our family dynamics are like, how often we go places, our dogs, our neighbors' dogs, living close to the road, not having perimeter fencing, the size of our fencing. We were going through everything and just like trying to give them all the information to see if it'd be a good fit. And they were just kept saying, like, yeah, you can train. Apparently Dobermans are just super, super intelligent, very, very smart, and very easy to train, very eager to train, which I think is a big plus. Yeah, looking for our family and our family's needs and whatnot, is that they can be trained and adapted to the different situations. And as far as like a guardian dog to protect a family, they are pretty amazing. And I feel like I'm a little nervous sharing it on YouTube, just because I feel like people, when you hear Dobermans, you're like, Like those are big, scary, mean dogs, but I feel like they just look big, scary, and mean. But the more I like research and look into their personality, we went out and met the dog, the parents of the dogs we're looking to get, and they are super gentle, very calm. They're not barkers, which is good for our situation because we have dogs around us. They don't tend to bark. They like their property. They patrol their property, their people, but anything outside of that, they don't really pay it much mind, especially if you just tell them like ignore them, they're fine, then they will. But they're very loyal. They said they're very protective. They will insert themselves into a situation if they feel like something's wrong with a situation. They are very quick to make sure that their people, that's their watch, are protected. And we heard a couple stories from the people who own them of like situations where the Dobermans like wasn't barking, wasn't trying to be vicious or anything like that, but just used the presence to kind of step in and make sure that his people were safe in a situation when like strangers were around or something like that. But even then, with strangers and stuff like that, because we have an extended family here, and I was like, well, we have people, our cousins, our aunts, uncles, my parents coming and going. Is that going to be an issue where they don't want them to come on the property because they're not their people? And they said with those dogs, you just let them know that those people are okay, and they will accept them and accept them being on their property, no problem. And I have tons of young siblings and cousins and all that, so that was definitely a priority. And little interesting fact that I didn't find out till after I was looking into the Doberman breed is that my uncle had a Doberman back when I was like 5, so I obviously didn't remember it because we didn't live here at the time and I was very young, but he had one for years, so I asked him and he was like, they're a great dog. Like, they're an amazing dog. So I feel like anyone who I've come across who owns it has nothing but great things to say about them. So things can change, but at this present moment, as we're looking into it, we're really looking at Dobermans now. Which is crazy because if you had asked me like 2 weeks ago before I even thought of that breed, I would have said, oh no, those are like those big scary dogs that just like have the fangs and the teeth and they're really mean. But apparently that's just how they look, and they're very, that people don't usually assume how great of a dog they are and how smart they are too, which I think is great too, and that they're easy to train. And that's another thing, they take time to train. Of course, any good dog is going to take time to train, and they have a lot of energy, but it's a very focused type of energy, they were saying, and they just need space to run and play, which we have the space to run and play. And they just like to they like to do things, but they like to do it with a purpose. So they love to be trained. They're pretty easy and smart to pick up things. And also they're like adolescent stage that every dog is going to have to go through. But it's pretty short especially compared to Anatolians. Like I said, that was the one I was looking into the most, and it took like over 2 years. But with them, it's mostly kind of finished up around a year old. So not as long to go through that stage. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop and do my face and finish out this look. I think the shimmers are pretty, as you can see. They're nothing like jaw-dropping, metallic looking, or even intensely sparkle. They just have a nice shimmery sparkle to them. So I'm going to finish out this look. I'll probably play a little bit with the purple and yellow mix here. This one looks pretty good. This side, of course, is just a little bit rough, but I'll play around with that as I finish out my look. And then we'll just close out this video, and yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. I'll share any thoughts about the dogs at the end if I forget any, but that's pretty much all I wanted to share, is just like the different dogs, different breeds and whatnot. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm forgetting in this video as far as like looking into it. There's so much about dogs and different dogs and the pros and cons of everything, but that's kind of like the highlights of the different dogs I was looking into, and the highlights that stood out for us, and a dog for us. And then Dobermans are looking really promising. So if you've owned a Doberman, I'd be curious how that went. Don't scare me. But yeah, so looking into Dobermans, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up. But I would never have thought we'd look into Dobermans or even consider it. But my husband and I are both like, yeah, I think this might be the dog for us. All right, so here's the finished look. I just did the purple and yellow on the lower lash line, and then took a little bit of this Happy Trap for my inner corner highlight. And overall, it's a nice look. I feel like overall quality of the mattes is nice. There's nothing majorly wrong. They're all nicely they're all, as in the only one. The only one that I tried is very nicely pigmented. I feel like that yellow is very pretty. Light yellow, but it also looks pretty light in the pan. So the mattes is nice. It's a nice quality. Not mind-blowingly amazing, or not so incredibly like pigmented that it's just to blow your socks off, but it's a nice pigment. And then all of the shimmers, I would say, are nice. They work well using it in the place of a matte, as I was showing you. They do, however, get a little bit faded or dusted away as you blend with them. So keep that in mind, because fire definitely definitely looked a lot more subdued when I was working with it. But as far as, you know, workable mattes and the quality that they will show as you work with them, they're nice. I think that they show up nicely enough. They create very pretty, very soft type of eye looks, and they have a nice amount of like shimmer to it. Nothing crazy. Definitely the blue is more of got a sparkle and intensity to it than the other one, Party. That's definitely, Party wasn't as beautiful as I thought it would be. But they're nice, and if you like this type of look when it comes to your shimmers, if you like it to not be too out there, nothing too crazy, they're nice. Do I think they're worth the price? I don't think so, because I feel like if you like this quality, you can get that or even better quality than this for cheaper in the indie world. But if you have this, if you like the colors in here and you like this type of formula, it's on sale, and you just like the brand as a whole, I don't think they're terrible palettes. But for me personally, as I said in the beginning, they're nothing that I would buy just because they're missing a lot for me when it comes to fun color stories. But together, they made a nice look. This is definitely a look I would enjoy rocking for sure. Definitely a look I feel like I got from the new Killer Purr, the revamped palette. Definitely a look I could have easily got with that and been a lot more intense. And the outer corner a lot more intense and smoky, and the crease work and the yellow would have just popped a lot more, but it's like a softer version of that. So overall, they're nice. I mean, I feel like if you bought them, you could still create really pretty looks. Are you wasting a little bit of money? Maybe, but to each their own when it comes to preference-wise. But to each their own, you know, maybe you really just enjoy Urban Decay as a brand. You can get it a little bit cheaper. You always like to wait for sales, use points, whatever the case is. I don't think they're terrible quality, so I think you will enjoy the looks that you can get from them if you like the color story that you have. For me, I'd only enjoy these palettes if I used them together. But with that said, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my first impressions on this palette or these palettes together, and also a little update on our hunt for the perfect dog for our family. It is quite the journey. Like I said, I'm a little excited that we might be getting to the end of that journey, because like I said, so far Doberman's checking all the boxes of what we need, and not really a whole lot of negatives that, you know, won't work for our family or just a hard stop like the other breeds were. So I'm getting excited. Who knows what the next couple months will bring. I never like to say it's for sure until it actually happens. So in the meantime, just keeping on doing the research, keeping on looking into it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm getting excited that we might be that much closer to finally finding the perfect dog for our family. So anyway, with all that said, that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found this video informative, at least being able to see how the eyeshadow quality works, or a little entertaining if you want to hear about my ramblings trying to find a good dog for our family. But with that said, as always, I'm over on Instagram at LadyKatie92 over there. If you want to check me out, I post reels, up close eye swatches, all that sort of thing, and a little bit about our home life. So if you're curious if we do get a dog, I always share to my Instagram stories every time we welcome a new little animal into our home. But yeah, with that said, that's gonna do it for me, and I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.